All right, can you guys hear me now? Sorry, the computer I was using was fucked up. Comment, tell me if this is working. I never used this before. Hmm. Let's see. Okay, you can hear me. Okay. Sorry about the delay. All right. Yeah. I was using a computer and it was fucked up. I'm sorry. So, hi. Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, LeBron James. Hello, Nicholas. Hello, Anthony. All right, let's go. So, I posted a bunch of questions on one of the previous videos, and I'm just going to answer them. And then if you have questions while I'm answering those questions, I can answer those too. First question, somebody asked me if I'd ever been locked up in Massachusetts. When I hit my ex-girlfriend's dad with my skateboard, I got detained in Springfield, Massachusetts, but they let me go. I've never done time in Massachusetts. Somebody asked, when will the documentary be released and on what platforms? It's going to be released next spring. We're going to release it in France at the Cannes International Film Festival. I don't know what platforms it's going to be on yet. Probably what we want, what's ideal, is we get like a limited theatrical release, and then we get it on one of the streaming networks like Netflix or HBO. I know we already got an offer from Hulu, but we want to do the festival circuit first and kind of shop it around and see if we can get the best deal for it. So that's that question. Um, Somebody asked me what drugs I was on when I was doing the Al Prophet interview a couple months ago. I wasn't on any drugs that day. And I've looked at that interview and I find it kind of interesting that, people think that I was on drugs. I guess I kind of look that way. I guess my best explanation for that with that particular interview is throughout the years, just because of survival purposes, I've had to be chameleonic and I've had to wear different masks. And I think that sometimes when I do storytelling, I employ those masks just so that I can convey the story better. And I think I was definitely doing it on the Al Prophet video, just kind of playing the part, not taking away from anything that I was saying. I mean, I was telling the truth. That's exactly what happened. But throughout the years, with having to adapt to different situations for survival purposes, um, you know, I wore different masks, if that makes any sense. Um, so I was not on drugs for the Al Prophet video, and Al's one of my friends. He kind of opened the door for me. I don't think I'd have this channel, and it wouldn't have started with and expanded as rapidly as it had without Al Prophet. So definitely appreciative of him. But on that particular, I think we did those interviews over 3 different days, and I definitely wasn't on any drugs besides my normal Suboxone and weed regimen that I've been on since I've been out of prison. Yes, I agree. I was wearing sunglasses. I don't know, but a bunch of people have told me that I looked high in that. Anyway, somebody asked if that's my Volvo in the movie Spun. No, definitely not my Volvo in the movie Spun. That movie was written by my friend Will De Los Santos, who optioned the rights to my book, and he wrote Spun. He was the producer of Spun, but that came out in 2002. I was like 17. I hadn't met him. I met Will when I was probably 32. It's definitely not my Volvo, but I think that old junky Volvos like that are pretty standard for drug addicts. Volvo's a classic drug addict car. Um, Somebody asked me if the guy caveman that I talk about, the Sereno, if he's from Santa Maria, if he's out of prison, and if he works in construction. Um, yeah, caveman's been out of prison for, I want to say, like 5 or 6 years, and he runs Teen Challenge out there in Santa Maria. Oh, so I see all the little comments. Sorry, I'm adapting to this. I'm 34. I'm 34 years old. I was born August 3rd, 1985. Is there a kick for Poppy T? No. And so I saw that somebody asked, they said they were on federal probation. If you get a false positive for poppy seeds, which I guess is possible in theory, but it's a false positive, and when they send it to the lab, you can dispute it. They can discern between poppy seeds and illicit narcotics. It's happened to me several times. They usually don't. If you get a dirty and you're on federal probation and you dispute it, they say that they're going to send it to the lab, but they're usually just pump faking, and they don't do it because it costs too much money. Thoughts on Kratom? I've done Kratom maybe 4 or 5 times in my life. A lot of my friends swear by it. I remember when there was that mass hysteria when the DEA was trying to make it illegal a few years ago. And during that time, I went and I bought like a kilo from a head shop here in LA. And I took it, tasted really bad. I remember I had to like put them in capsules so that I could get it down better. It didn't really do much for me. I don't know. I haven't had good experiences with Kratom. Hi Ryan, about to start tapering off methadone. Yeah, I would be scared if I had to taper off methadone too. I don't know if there's a safe way to do it. I mean, if you're tapering, just taper by nature. You go down, sequentially, lower and lower and lower. But I think you're going to get to a point with any methadone detox where it's going to be uncomfortable. I look high right now. I'm on Suboxone. I'm not. Why is everyone always asking me if I'm high? Do I really look like I'm high? Are my eyes pinned? My favorite combination of drugs back during my using days, coke and heroin, speedball. Yes, I do. I do. CBD. CBD's cool. I took some CBD lollipops yesterday, and they worked for me. Yeah, I'm on Suboxone. That's it. I'm on Suboxone. I smoke bud before I go to sleep. Wow. All right. So more of you think that I look loaded than not. Oh. Okay. Well, I'm not. Can different races get high together in prison? Can you sell to other races in prison? Depends on what other race is. Generally, if you're black, that's like a no-no with any race. Like, whites can't really... You definitely can't get high with a black person in prison, at least in California. And I mean, I'm assuming that question's specified for California. Politics get way diluted when you're in other parts of the country. I did time in the Midwest, and they didn't have the kind of racist politics that we have here. In California, the woods run with the Southsiders, so we're kind of allies, and we can get high with Southsiders, and we can do business with blacks, and we can do business with Pisces, and we can do business with any race that we want, but you can't get high with other races, especially black. That's like the big no-no, and you can't eat behind someone if they're black. Okay. So there's that. Did I party with Brittany Murphy? No, I did not party with Brittany Murphy. She died a long, long, long time before I was ever in that kind of scene. Is my book on Barnes & Noble. You can order it at barnesandnoble.com. They have it at some Barnes & Nobles. You can go there and they can order it. It's definitely on Amazon. How much of wasting talent, everyone says wasted talent, it's wasting talent, would you say is based on your actual life? 80%. There was no Blair. Blair's not based on any one particular girl. It's kind of just a mixture of multiple girls. And I was never a musician. I don't know how to play the guitar. That was kind of just a metaphor. But most of the stories from Wasting Talent, I'm sure you hear in my videos, no, Blair's not Megan. Megan's the girl from the Mike Virgin story, but like I said, Blair's a combination of multiple girls. Is the Mike Virgin story true? Yeah. It is. I'm not going to tell you whose house I was dropped off at until story 8 for the federal prison stories, because I found out that, and I think if we unfold it that way, like more organically, I think it's going to be better. So I'll let you know that. At what age did I lose my virginity? 14. And that's pretty... Tell as a story. I will tell you a story, but I want to get through these questions because I promised that I would. Um, Best way to come off methadone, and we were kind of touching on that before. I mean, I was forced, if I hadn't been foolish and left the hospital, if I was out here and I wanted to taper off methadone, I would just ask my clinic what the best way to do it is. Like I said earlier, there's no painless way to come off methadone. That's a hardcore drug. It literally saturates in your bones, and it has a really, really, really long. And Mikey, I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. What the best way to taper is. I'm not a physician, so don't take my like chemical recommendations seriously, but benzos always have helped me the most when I'm coming off of opiates. And I hate benzos normally, but the good thing about benzos is it quells the anxiety and it lets you sleep. You know, a lot of the symptoms of opioid withdrawal are amplified by the fact that you don't sleep. So benzos definitely help me sleep when I'm kicking. What's the best way to take gabapentin? In excess, I think. I think you have to take like thousands of milligrams for it to work. I know this last time I was in prison in, where was I? Wasco State Prison. We were snorting gabapentin, Narotans. We call them nanas. How was I getting high from heroin when I was on such a high dose of methadone? I was doing 11 grams a day at the time. 3,000 milligrams of gabapentin is what you need. Yeah, in the thousands, like I said. I'm glad that my stories help you. I appreciate that. Um, did I? I can't read my own handwriting. I don't know what that says. Did I ever consider escaping out of jail or prison? Absolutely not. I never was facing the kind of time where I would have to consider that. I mean, if I was looking at life, I would absolutely try to escape from prison. I did run out of the courtroom one time, and I've told that story. I think that's in the beginning of the Mike Virgin story. Thank you guys. Thank you. G. Bakara and me Natu. Do I skateboard? I do skateboard. I've been skating for years. I grew up skating. I appreciate the donations, guys. It helps a lot. Thank you. Did anything ever happen with Mike Virgin and the pedophile ring, and what happened to Megan? So, after I got busted, after I basically got set up, I mean, Megan pretty much set me up. When I went to go get her out of Mike Virgin's house, and we left with that guy Lou and that other brunette girl, and we were in that car and had the balloons. We got arrested. I went to jail, and they uncuffed Megan, and it was the same pedophile cop that was at Mike Virgin's house a week before that had arrested me. So he was like in on the pedophile ring. And they took me to a place called the Palm Beach County Stockade. There's multiple jails in West Palm Beach, Florida, but they took me to Gun Club. And then they housed me in the Palm Beach County Stockade from there. And I had a terrible time in there. I mean, it was predominantly Haitian black guys and Puerto Ricans. I was like one of the only white guys. I remember I was kicking really bad when I went in there, and I'd sit down at the table and get my breakfast. Every morning while I was kicking, some black guy would come up to me and just jack me for my tray. And his name was Mad Dog. And that was like literally what his nickname was. This guy Mad Dog would just come and he would jack my tray because I was kicking and I was way too weak to fight back. After about a week or so, I kind of built my strength up, and in this particular jail, the trays were made out of like, not a metal, but some sort of aluminum. It was like pretty hard. He went to go take my tray and I ended up hitting him with it. This was a much bigger guy and he ended up beating me up, and I went to the infirmary. I had to get a bunch of stitches on the back of my head. And they housed me in another dorm, and in that dorm, people didn't really mess with me. There were more white people there. And while I was in jail, the point of the story is while I was in jail, I remember that Mike Virgin had a landline, and like I knew the, why is your book on print on demand? That's how I don't know. That's the way that I published it. And you can also get it on Audible. God, it's so hard to like tell stories with all these different comments coming in. I had called Mike Virgin's house because I remembered the landline. So it's probably like 2 or 3 weeks after I'd been to jail. I'd already been in the infirmary from getting beat up by that guy Mad Dog, and a couple of his friends jumped me. And I called Mike Virgin's landline, and I asked for Mike. Some guy had picked up. I didn't know who the guy was. There were always kind of some weird, shady characters. And the guy said that Mike wasn't there. He knew who I was because obviously when you call from jail, there's a little pre-recording. It's Ryan, inmate at county jail in Florida or whatever. And I asked where Megan was, and this guy told me that Mike was pimping Megan out and that Megan was sleeping with Mike. So I know that after I got busted, after they set me up, I mean, I was alone in jail, and the only reason that I called Megan is because I was lonely, and B, I needed money. My parents were like on a cruise to Italy at the time, so I had no resources, so I reached out to Megan, hoping that she'd have what's good, say you should do different chat. I can't read these things that quickly. This guy basically told me that Megan was being pimped out by Mike. So I had always thought that the reason that Mike had kind of taken us in and given us a place to stay and had his driver come picking up in the limo was because he wanted to pimp Megan out. And that's ultimately what happened. So he pimped her out, and then I lost touch with her. I mean, I never talked to her that time. I called the house, and this guy told me that Mike was fucking her and that she was basically turning tricks for him. And so I didn't try calling again. Then I go to prison in 2009. I catch my federal case. I get out in 2013. And when I'm out in 2013, like, Facebook wasn't very big before I'd gone to prison. Before I went to prison, MySpace was like the big thing. And I remember people had Facebook, but you had to have like a college, you had to have like a university email address to have Facebook. And I didn't have one of those, but my girlfriend before that, Kate, the one when I was 18, she had a Facebook because she went to a real university up in New York. So Facebook wasn't ubiquitous like it is now, where everybody has Facebook. And so while I was in prison, people had made my Facebook account. And when I got out, one of the first people that reached out to me, who I guess had friend requested me, because I had friends running my Facebook while I was doing all that Fed time. And one of the first people that had reached out to me when I got out in 2013 was Megan. And I hadn't talked to Megan since the Mike Virgin thing. She had returned to Knoxville, Tennessee. She was living in Tennessee. And, she told me that she had gotten on methadone and that she had turned her life around. And we had a conversation. And, I'd just done almost 5 years in federal prison. I wasn't really holding things against Megan anymore. It had happened so long before. It wasn't something I was really holding against her. I think I wanted to talk to her because the Mike Virgin is definitely, like the craziest story that I've ever been through. That whole Mike Virgin thing was absolutely wild. So I wanted Megan in my life just because I didn't even know if it was true or real anymore. It sounded so abstract and surreal after so many years had gone by. I needed to talk to her just to verify that these events actually happened. So I wanted to talk to her. So we start talking when I get out of prison, and she sends me a picture of a little girl. And the little girl's like 7 years old. I don't know what the exact age is, but whatever it was, the timing worked out where it could be my daughter. And when she sent me the picture, this girl looked just like me. Little brunette girl, same face as me. I honestly, when I saw the picture, I was almost convinced it was my daughter. And she just sent me the picture without any context. Like, she sent me this picture of this little girl that was hers, and she didn't say anything. She didn't say, "Oh, look at my daughter." And so I said, "Who's that?" And she wrote back and she said, "She doesn't even know you," implying that I was her dad. And the timeline definitely added up. Like, that was in 2005 or 2006, and I got out in 2013, and she was, I don't know, 7 or 8. However the time was, it was perfect. And she said, she doesn't even know you. So I'm like, are you serious? I have a daughter with you? And then she said, oh, no, I'm fucking with you. It was with some other scumbag. But to this day, I honestly don't know if Megan's daughter's mine or not. It certainly looked like me. And it was kind of weird how she said she doesn't know you. And then I kind of started freaking out. And she's like, oh, no, 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 I'm just kidding. Some other scumbag was the kid's dad. And anyway, then I talked to Megan for, on and off for several years, just as like Facebook friends. I'm sure you guys have people on Facebook if you haven't seen for a long time, but you guys interact. She leaves likes and comments. And so I had her in my life for a while. And then when I got married a few years ago to that girl that sent me a fan letter for wasting talent, I knew her for a week. And I ended up marrying her, and we had like the most disastrous relationship you could imagine. My ex-wife got really jealous about Megan for some reason. Like, she was really, really, really jealous about her. So she made me unfriend her on Facebook. And after I unfriended her, I lost contact. And I was thinking about it today because somebody had asked me, someone commented on one of the videos. They said, hey, can you post a picture of Megan? And I wanted to find a picture and post it because I know a lot of people are probably interested to know what she looks like. And I was going to look her up on Facebook today because I was thinking about it. But that's kind of what happened with Megan. She told me her story, and she admitted to me that after I had left, that Mike had turned her out and she had become a hooker for him. And that was his grand plan. I knew that. And, she said that things got really ugly there. She didn't really elaborate on it. But she ended up moving back to Knoxville, Tennessee. And she got on the methadone program, had her daughter. And she's like a single mom living in Knoxville last time I talked to her, and that was in like 2016. What happened with Mike Virgin and the pedophile ring, when I got out of prison, I Googled him, and I found him, and I know some people have commented they've Googled him too, and they've found that he overdosed. He was from Pennsylvania, I guess, originally. There's a picture of him. If you Google Mike Virgin, you'll see an obituary, and it said that he was like part of the Teen Challenge rehab, and like said he was like this faith-based guy and part of the church. But he's he never got busted for the pedophile ring. I mean, remember, a lot of the people that were involved with that were cops. And look at what's going on now. That guy Epstein just got busted for this huge, like, international crazy pedophile ring. There's all these big luminaries and powerful politicians involved, and coincidentally, he commits suicide when the guards aren't paying attention at this federal detention center. I've been to federal detention centers that have the exact same setup, the same protocols. There's no way that could have happened. You can't kill yourself like that in the hole. You need, like, there's nowhere for you to hang yourself. There's no leverage on those bunks. I'll post a picture of the bunk. So I think that the pedophilia thing, I think, is very widespread, and I think there's a lot of powerful people that are involved with it. I think that Mike Virgin was, involved in a pedophile ring that included law enforcement, and because of that, he was able to not get busted. And then he overdosed in, I think the obituary said like 2011. I know it was while I was in prison. So to answer your question, never got busted for the pedophile ring, and he's dead. You can Google him. He was from Pennsylvania. You guys will find the same person that I found. All right. Now I'm gonna answer more questions. Sorry, the live thing's weird. There's so many. I'm like, I have such bad ADD, and everything's like popping up like this. Let's see. How did I cook up Opana? I don't know. I've never cooked up Opana. By the time that I got back, Oxycontin had been outlawed, and I was never really a big pill guy to begin with. I've never done an Opana before. What do I think of all the dropouts and all the dropout channels? So for people that don't know what a dropout is, um, for people that don't know what a dropout is, it's somebody that was an active person in general population in prison, and now they're a dropout. They're in protective custody. There's people in protective custody for all sorts of reasons. You can be in protective custody for um, being a snitch, for being a sex offender, or you can be in there for being a gang dropout. A lot of these guys that are in protective custody don't want to be part of that gang life anymore. And it gets very complicated in prison because the rules are dictated by the gang members that are at the top, the big homies or whatever, and they're basically calling shots that are aimed at keeping these youngsters in prison forever. And it serves really no purpose. And when you like take away the veil and you look at what's really going on in the prison systems, these people are calling shots. The shot callers are calling shots for the youngsters, and it's all over dope fiend stuff. It's all because they're heroin addicts. These shot callers at the top, and the majority of shots that are called are because of their drug addiction. It's not about honor or principle or whatever it used to be. So because of that, there's two sides. There's general population, there's protective custody. How do I feel about protective custody or dropout people? It's like, to me, it's like the same thing as like being racist. Like, I've never been racist. I don't not like somebody just because they're another color skin. I don't like, it doesn't mean that I don't like you if you're a dropout or if you're in PC, because I don't know what the circumstances are. And the prison stuff is like so lame to me now. Like, I'm on chasing my career, trying to make it in the film industry, trying to make it in the literary world. I could really, to be honest with you, I could care less about what's going on in protective custody and general population in prison. Really just doesn't really matter to me anymore. I didn't even know that dropouts were making channels. Again, I don't really care about it though. How is kicking Suboxone? This is a question that I'm going to get into in some of my later videos. I like doing videos where I'm just telling stories because I think I can express myself better in stories than in this kind of, like town hall live stream. But just in short, kicking Suboxone was one of the worst things I ever kicked. It didn't last very long. I think it was about 10 days and I started feeling normal again. It wasn't like methadone that lasted for months, but it was pretty bad. Suboxone's, next to methadone, Suboxone was probably the hardest thing I've ever kicked. Thank you. I don't see, someone just sent $5. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Getting off Suboxone was really hard. Somebody also asked, when am I going to get off Suboxone? And why am I on Suboxone to begin with? People seem to not understand. I just got out of prison, and they're like, well, you were just got out of prison, you detoxed in prison. Why the fuck are you back on Suboxone if you just came off the drugs? I was on Suboxone before I went to prison this last time. So I just did 16 months. For all the people that are just new to following my story, I went to prison for pimping and pandering. It's a whole long story, but I didn't do the pimping and pandering. It was a bullshit case, right? And I was doing about 5 8-milligram strips a day before I went to prison, and I had to kick that cold turkey. That was one of the worst kicks that I ever had. And then when I was in prison, thank you, Peter. I appreciate the contribution. Pimping and pandering. Horrible charge to have on your record, by the way. It's like you cannot explain that to a boss But, so I did 16 months. When I was in prison, I was doing drugs when I could, but not really I would do Suboxone. A lot of people are doing Suboxone right now. They send Suboxone through the mail system. It's amazing. One little 8-milligram strip that we get out here, the street value for that's like what, $5 or $10. In prison, you can sell a strip for $100 wholesale, and you can break that 8-milligram strip into 32 pieces. So little teeny pieces like that people sell for $10. That's what's going on in the feds. One 8-milligram strip you can break down, and you can make $320 off that in the feds. And you can get high off a strip if you don't have a habit 32 times. Like the pieces of subs that they're selling are so microscopic. You'd be amazed that people can actually get loaded off that. And what we would do is we do like the calito, just like we would if we were putting heroin down our nose with the spoon. We'd put the little piece of the sub in the spoon, stir it up, and we put it down our nose, and you get loaded off it. I mean, I couldn't really get loaded off a 32 of a 8 milligram strip, but sometimes I would do like a 16th or something, and I could feel a 16th. So I did Suboxone, you know, when I could in prison, and then I had a really bad term this last because this it's a long story, but basically the guy that was like the shot caller for the whites at Santa Barbara County Jail in this tank I was in, he called me a bitch because he was trying to pull a jack move on me for some dope that I was trying to buy in jail. And when he called me a bitch, I took off on him because, you know, you can't let people talk to you like that in jail. And as soon as I did that, like 4 or 5 of these youngsters smashed me with them, and I got 3 broken ribs. So I had to kick the Suboxone, 5 8 milligram strips a day, cold turkey with 3 broken ribs. That's how my term started. I got in a 60-man race riot during that term. I got beat up at Victorville this last time I was there. I got 8 stitches. And then I went to Centinela, and they're mixing PC and GP on the 1 and 2 level yards there. So as soon as we get to this prison, they're mixing S and Y with GP, which are like sworn enemies. I got in like 12 melees, or it's like a riot, I guess is like layman term for it. I got in 12 riots in like 3 months because they're mixing PC with GP. Okay. So, yeah, why did I get back on Suboxone? I had a horrible term. I get out, and I literally, like, had PTSD from the term. It was so fucking bad this time. I missed the birth of my son, Nico, and I felt shaky when I got out. I mean, I was smoking weed in there, and I was doing subs when I could, and I just felt like I needed to be back on them, you know, and I guess maybe I just wanted to get loaded when I first started doing them. But I'm doing them now. I've cut down to 2 strips a day. So I do 2 8 strips a day. I was doing 3 for a while when I felt like it. Now when I wake up, I take 1 8 milligram strip. I take them sublingually now. I don't shoot them anymore. This last time back in March, and my fiance found a rig in my shorts, and she got mad at me. She's like, hey, if I could find this rig this easily, then our son can find the rig this easily. And she made me swore that I'd stop slamming Suboxone. So now I'm just taking it sublingually, and I take 1 8 in the morning, and I take 1 8 at night. I've injected Subutex. And I think Subutex is a better drug than Suboxone because it doesn't have the naloxone in it. A lot of times I think the naloxone makes people not want to switch from their heroin habit to Suboxone because it has naloxone in it. So you have to wait for that period to make sure you don't go into precipitated withdrawal. Subutex doesn't have naloxone, so it's a way better drug. It's just buprenorphine, so it stimulates the opiate receptors without the naloxone, so you don't have to worry about going into precipitated withdrawal and having an uncomfortable transition. So I think Subutex is a better drug, but I'm on Suboxone. How much do you think your parents have spent altogether bailing you out of situations? They've told me, thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. My parents have spent $400,000. That's what they told Penthouse magazine. Penthouse did like a 10-page article about me a year ago, and it was cool. My name was on the cover. My girl and I got in the issue. I have pictures of it up on the Instagram. But in that Penthouse article, the guy that had done the article asked how much money my parents had spent, and they said 400,000. That's how much. I mean, I'm not disputing that. I had 3 years of sobriety at one point, and it was my best 3 years. Why is your book print on demand? Why does that matter? Does that take away from the book if it's print on demand? Do you have to take enough kratom? Can you get high shooting subs with naloxone in it? Yes. I don't know why doctors and a bunch of medical professionals say that. They say that the naloxone cancels out, like won't allow you to get high. That's not true. Like I saw, like on the AMA website, it says that naloxone makes it so if you inject it, you can't feel it. It's not true. I don't. My own doctors told me that, but I was addicted to shooting Suboxone for 3 years with naloxone in it, and worked for me. You don't get a rush, but it's like you don't have to wait for it to dissolve. I think I was just more addicted to the needle than anything else, and I think that's why I was shooting Suboxone for so long. But I don't recommend doing that. It's so bad for you. That's a sublingual medication. It hardens your veins. Like I had multiple friends get limbs amputated from shooting Suboxone or shooting other stuff. It's not. I mean, there's no point to play with it. If you're not getting a rush, what's the point of doing it? Just take it sublingually. You're gonna feel it just the same. Coming off subs was one of the worst experiences of my life. It was methadone was worse. Suboxone was like just pretty close. It just didn't last as long. It was like 10 days, but it was horrible. Thank you, Ois Gomez. I appreciate that. Precipitated withdrawals is absolutely horrible. Now that's worse than kicking methadone or Suboxone, going to precipitated withdrawal. And for those of you that don't know what that is, let me explain it, and I'll tell you about it. I'll tell you a little story about precipitated withdrawal the first time I experienced it. So, Suboxone has a drug in it called buprenorphine. Buprenorphine stimulates your opiate receptors. A doctor explained to me one time that an opiate receptor looks like a cup of water. So just imagine that your opiate receptors is a cup of water. When you do heroin, that cup of water gets filled up. So when your opiate receptors are filled up, it releases dopamine, and that's how you get high. So it makes you feel high. When you take methadone or when you take buprenorphine, what that does is it fills that glass up, but Suboxone, because it has naloxone as one of the components, it fills it up with something that's like almost like a slick, like almost like an oil. So if you try to put an opiate in your body after you have naloxone in your system, it's going to slide off the top of that cup. That's how it works. So what happens is, like, say you're on Suboxone. Say I'm on Suboxone right now. Say that I shoot heroin. It's going to slide off that opiate receptor. I'm not going to feel it. It's not going to make me sick. I'm not going to feel it. And that's why naloxone is an opiate blocker. You're okay if you're on Suboxone and you do opiates, but if it's the other way around, you're going to go into what's called precipitated withdrawal. So the way that works is, say you're on heroin and you want to transition back to Suboxone. So now remember the cup. The cup's been full to the top, to the brim with heroin. Every day that you shoot heroin, it's filling this cup up. When you're going into withdrawal, that cup is gradually going down. And the further it goes down, the sicker you're getting. That cup has to be empty before you can put naloxone into your system. If you put naloxone in your system before that cup is all the way empty, you go into what's called precipitated withdrawal. And it's, do I see Dr. Frawley in SB? I used to. Now I go to Dr. Dine. But I went to Frawley for years. So that's what happens. You're on a heroin run and you want to switch over to Suboxone. You have to make sure that you're actually in full-blown withdrawal before you can take the Suboxone. Most junkies can't wait. I know I can't. I've gone into precipitated withdrawal like 15 times because I'm a junkie and I can't wait for me to be full-blown sick enough to be able to take it. So what happens is, if there's still heroin in this cup and you take a Suboxone, it violently rips the stuff out, because it's like injecting it with Narcan. If you've ever overdosed and they shoot you up with Narcan, it's an opiate antagonist. It's going to make you into full-blown precipitated withdrawal. But this can happen on a smaller level if you take the Suboxone too soon. So I remember it's like 3 years ago. I'm going to do the next Fed video tomorrow. Print on demand, a lot of independent labels do that. Self-publishing houses do that. And all that means, just this little side note, print on demand means that, like, when my book is ordered, they do not print it unless an order goes. They do print on demand. And that's it. That's like a newer way that they're doing publishing. A lot of smaller labels do that. Just to answer your question real quick. But so anyway, so a couple years ago, my wife had gone, my ex-wife now, had gone to Denver. She went to Denver for a week, And she said, don't get strung out when I'm gone. I'm like, all right, cool. I got my Suboxone. I'm fine. Second she leaves, I go on like a hardcore heroin run. I'm going down to 6 in San Pedro, downtown LA. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that, man. Thank you very much, Chris. I go down to 6 in San Pedro. Okay, that's like the spot to score in downtown LA. And I go on this like horrible heroin run for a week. Now my ex-wife's getting back, and I'm supposed to meet her at the airport. My entire, thank you, Mike. Thank you very much, man. My entire motivation to, like, my whole plan is that when she gets back from the trip, I'm going to switch to Suboxone, and she's never going to, buprenorphine is not the blocker. Naloxone's the blocker, for sure. Buprenorphine's what stimulates your opiate receptors. I've been using Suboxone since 2003, since the FDA approved it. Definitely naloxone is it's synonymous with Narcan. So I had to transition back onto the Suboxone. And so she gets there, and she had a stepkid. She had a 5-year-old stepkid. On that video of my ex-wife is a psychopath, this is the person that I'm talking about. She has this little 5-year-old kid. So I go and I pick her up, and I had to take her and I had to take the kid to school that day. And I remember that I went into the bathroom. She actually walked to take the kid to school. The reason I had to go to school is because it was around Christmas time, and he was going to do one of those like little school pageant things where he like sings Christmas carols. So my wife left for like 30 minutes. So I go in the bathroom, I put an 8 milligram strip in the spoon, I add a little water, stir it up with the plunger, I drop the shot, and I shoot the Suboxone. I remember I shot it into my ankle. Now usually like when you shoot heroin into your ankle or like anywhere below your waist, you feel the rush go up. You can feel it go up. If you do it in your arm, you can feel it go down. If you do it below your waist, you feel it go up. And I remember I hit a vein by my ankle, but I didn't wait long enough. I wasn't sick enough. And so I shot the Suboxone, I registered, and as soon as I pressed the plunger down, this cold rush just surged, it like coursed through me. Instead of a rush of like the nice pins and needle warmth that you get from heroin, I got the complete opposite. This just cold rush of withdrawal going from my ankle all the way up to my body. And I got deathly ill. I remember I got inside the bed, couldn't decide if I was hot or cold. I'm putting the sheets on. I'm thrashing. I'm screaming. I get butt naked, and my wife comes back, and I'm covered in sweat. And she knows. But I was in precipitated withdrawal, and there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, you just kind of have to tough it out. Just imagine heroin withdrawal condensed into like a 2 or 3 hour period, and it's intensified by like 25, you know? And so that's one of the issues with Suboxone, because it has naloxone in it. If you take the naloxone too soon, you risk going into that precipitated withdrawal, which is absolutely horrible. It's happened to me one time trying to take Vivitrol. I lied to my doctor, told him that I hadn't used for a few days or whatever, a week, whatever it was supposed to be. And I had just gotten loaded the day before. He shoots me up with Vivitrol. Worst precipitated withdrawal of my life. I was literally crawling on the doctor's floor, grabbing my dad's leg, telling him how much I loved him, and being like super emotional. And I remember that was probably like the sickest I'd ever been for like a few hours, going into precipitated withdrawal off Vivitrol. It was absolutely horrible. But yeah, I mean, right now I'm on Suboxone, and hey, Ryan, what about Orlam? What is that? It's hard to read all these. Who did you roll with, Woods or Mexicans? I ran Southsiders. I ran with resident Southsider for like the first 2 or 3 months, and then I ran with the Woods, and I've run with the Woods ever since. I just got out of prison in March, and I've run Wood ever since 2009. I was resident Southsider for like a few months while I lived with that guy Chenny. That's it. Can you not get Suboxone tabs in Cali anymore? Yeah, you can. Of course. Have you heard of microdosing with Suboxone? I have not. Would night. What were Quaalude effects? Quaalude effects, imagine if you take 75 Xanax bars and you live through it. belligerent, drunk feeling. Jenny was a good dude. He had my back. Can you slam methadone? No. I mean, I never have. U4770, the research chemical, I've done that shit. Horrible. The synthetic opiate research, the RI research chemical, it shit's horrible. Do not do that. Can you? I don't know if you can slam methadone. I don't think you can. I've always heard you can't. They charge $100 a G in ATI. Are you talking about that Q770, the research chemical, right? The RC? Heard of Black Beauties, the speed pills? Yes, I've done those. Yep. How long did it take you to withdraw from heroin? Heroin's not too bad. I can come off heroin in about 5 or 6 days, you know, and like be all right. Your sleep's still kind of messed up for like a couple weeks after that. But heroin, wow, thank you, Blake. Really appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. Have I ever gotten cotton fever? Why do you say the RC is garbage? No, no, RCs are bad. Don't do RCs. RCs are research chemicals. They're like synthetic designer drugs. Stop doing those. Do not do them. I did that. Yeah, U4770, that synthetic opiate shit. I got that off the internet and it was horrible. What was the other question? Someone just asked another question. Arguing about slamming methadone. I don't know if you can do that. Why did you switch from methadone to Suboxone? Well, I kicked the methadone in prison, and then when I got out, I was sober for 3 years. I stayed sober for 3 years off everything. No subs, no weed, and I relapsed in 2015, and I did a few stints in rehab, and then I got back on Suboxone. I've been on Suboxone ever since. That answers your question. Have you ever hurt anybody in prison as a wood? I have, and it's not something I feel good about. Yeah, I've been on squads. We're gonna get into that stuff in the in like the next like 7 or 8 federal prison videos that I do. I'll talk about how I had to put work in, and I'm gonna go into great detail about it. I want to use this channel as like a platform for just like a confessional platform where I can talk about all the mistakes I've made and hopefully kind of just externalize them and try to work them out just on this live stage, and hopefully it helps you guys. And I know that you think stuff's entertaining, but a lot of the stuff is painful for me to process, and I like just being able to talk about. Do I know Jeff Shepard? No. Wes Watson, I've talked to Wes before. Have you seen someone get cheeks busted? I've never seen anybody get raped in prison. I've been in the hole when I was in Indiana doing a layover. I was doing a layover at Terre Haute when I was going to Oxford. How well do I know Antoine? Not very well. I did a show with him for Spike TV. I've met him maybe a handful of times. I'm doing one with Herc. Best books ever done. Hold on. My ADD's like just flaring right now. Yeah, I heard somebody get raped when I was in the hole in Terre Haute. I heard a black kid, maybe 23 years old, was raping an old black man, and they were screaming all night, and this kid was raping the old man, and then some of the trustees or orderlies, porters, whatever you want to call them, told me that that he got raped the night before. They had to like clean up blood. What happened to the one guy you owed a bunch of money and you told his mom about getting help? I don't know. When I got out of prison, I went to go try to find him. You know, basically like, I don't know. I like got out of prison and I want to be like, dude, I didn't tell on anybody. Like, you guys should help me get back on my feet. And I went to go look for him one time and I couldn't find him. I knew a place that, like, I know a store that his mom owns. They own an arts and crafts store in Santa Barbara. I went to the store and he worked there, but he wasn't there that day, and that was the only time that I tried to follow up on it. I used to get a lot of H in Santa Barbara, bring it back to Redding. You can shoot liquid methadone, I don't know. Favorite prison food? Not tuna nachos. That's my favorite spread. That's like a popular spread in federal prison. It's just like nachos that you'd eat with meat, but you put tuna in it. It's good. Slow the chat down. Yeah, I know. It's fucking me up. Let me go back to questions. I have them like written down, and I think that's probably like better. Are California doctors who prescribe Suboxone cool with smoking weed as part of the recovery plan? They are. Doctors in California, at least the doctor I use in Santa Barbara, he's totally cool with me smoking weed. My parole officer, I'm on state parole, he's cool with me smoking weed. They just raided my house maybe 3 weeks ago for no reason, just like a parole sweep. Cuffed me, they pulled guns on me, and my fiance, and our kid, thank God, was sleeping. But they ripped our house apart. I had a pound of weed, I had a bunch of pipes and stuff, and I was like, hey, I got this weed here. And they're like, yeah, we're not even tripping about that. They don't care about weed in California, both the medical community and law enforcement. They just don't care about it. Now, if you're on federal probation, they're tripping on weed. You'll go to prison for dirty tests for marijuana, even now, though it's legal now recreationally on the state level. It's still illegal federally. Have you ever done DMT? I've done DMT literally hundreds of times. Good night, Steven. All right, more questions. Did I ever consider snitching on Sass? Because he jacked me, and because I was sick, and because Jenny cheated on me? No. I never considered snitching on Sass or anybody else. Now, with that being said, I wasn't looking at a lot of time. I was looking at 10 years at the most, and I was mentally prepared to do that kind of time. These other guys that are looking at life sentences that tell on their case, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I would do in that situation. I don't want to think that I'd stay good on, like, if I was looking at a life sentence, but Jesus Christ, man, that's like survival at that point. How did you meet your wife now? I contacted her. You don't go to state prison in California for simple possessions anymore. Now it's a misdemeanor in California. You don't go to prison for it. I met my wife, my fiance. In 2013, when my friends were running my Facebook account, I had them just randomly add any hot girl that they saw. I'd be like, hey, when I get out, I want you to assemble like a friends list of all the hottest girls in our area. And she was on that list. I reached out to her in 2013. I was definitely like looking my healthiest back then. I was in really good shape. And, I approached her online, sent her a Facebook message, through the old, hey, do I know you? Sometimes that works. Like, you can start a conversation or whatever. But she had a boyfriend at the time, and she was really solid about it. She's like, hey, I got a boyfriend. Like, I'm not trying to, like, have conversations with you about this or whatever. And so that was in 2013. I got engaged to a different girl. We broke up. Then I married that girl that sent me the fan letter for wasting talent. And I ended up, how did we meet? She sent me a message after my wife and I had split, after I went to Lompoc on my second federal probation violation. She said, hey, you're always hooking up with all these bimbos. Why don't you take me out to dinner? And we went out to dinner, and we were inseparable after that. I got her pregnant maybe a couple months after our first date, and she was absolutely solid to me. She stayed loyal to me while I was in prison, sent me money all the time, pictures, came and visited me with my son. She's an amazing mom, super solid woman, and she's had my back since day one. Was USP Lompoc lame? No, Lompoc was a really cool prison. They have a movie theater inside that prison. Even though it's like an old penitentiary. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that, man. Um, Even though it's an older penitentiary and there's like, things can get violent at Lompoc. There's a lot of lifers there. But no, it wasn't lame. It was cool. I was in there with Big Meech. I don't know if you guys know who Big Meech is, but he was like 3 cells down from me in 2016 when I was there. How do you deal with sub-constipation? Um, I don't get constipated from Suboxone. I don't know. I definitely get constipated with heroin and with methadone. Um, Suboxone makes it hard for me to come, and I love that because I can last longer. So it basically makes me perform better sexually. I like that about it. But as far as like, I don't really. I get my eyes get pinned on Suboxone, and I get really itchy. I don't nod out on it, and I don't get constipated, and it makes it so that it takes me longer to come. I love Suboxone. Can't get hard. Really? I have no issue getting hard. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I'm wait. Did Big Meech run the place? Yeah, for the blacks. You DM me on IG, dude. I get like a lot of DMs, and I try to answer them. I'm just super busy. Just if I'm not answering you on Instagram, just keep trying, and I will. I promise. Eventually, it's tough for me. I get a lot, and then I'm really busy on like a day-to-day basis, and I get a lot of DMs. My wife doesn't care about my stories. Nah. Mm-mm. She's super cool. She's not tripping on anything. What tips do I have for withdrawal? I don't know. I if you can, I recommend getting into a medical detox. Medical detox. If you have a PPO insurance, they'll cover it. There's not a lot of stories with Big Meech. That guy was pretty much, yeah, he was a boss in there. Everybody was sucking up to him all the time. I remember the second day that I was in Lompoc, I didn't have shoes, and I was asking some white dudes, I'm like, hey, anyone got any yard dogs that I can have? And Big Meech gave me a brand new pair of Nike Cortezes, and I always thought that was really cool. I didn't even know who he was at the time. I had no idea who that guy was. I don't have a Snapchat. I don't talk to Chenny or Mike. Yes, the kid from Hartford with the $60,000, I ran into him 2 years ago, and he just gave me a hug, and he's like, hey, bro, there's nothing but love here. And he told me that his dad had died. His dad was super rich, so he was always expecting to inherit like 50, $60 million. He owned strip clubs and stuff before all this. My friend from Connecticut, who I call Luke, but that's not his real name. Palabra. And yeah, he just swallowed 60 G's, and he said, hey, no hard feelings. I'm not tripping. My dad passed away. He didn't get all the money at once. He gets structured settlement or whatever. I think he gets $3,000 to $5,000 a month, which is nothing. That's peanuts. Um, and he has to pass a drug test every month. And he told me he's not passing drug tests very frequently. Palabra. Yeah, that's a true story. Weirdo. Palabra. Hartford. My parents are good. What's your question, Eric? I didn't see what your question was. Go. Ask me. I'm sorry. My craziest mess story? I don't know, man. Probably the pocket butthole. Eric, what's your question? In the city of Lompoc? I've never hung out in Lompoc. Ever move weight up to Portland? No, but I used to pick mushrooms up in Portland. Um, I don't know if you're from what percentage are scams? What does that mean? What percentage of what are scams? No. Fall River, Massachusetts? No. How much did I make? The pocket butthole. Yeah, that was like, oh, how much did I make on mushrooms? Pen pals in prison. A lot of people just hustle overweight women. I never did that. I could not sleep well at night doing that. I think that's so messed up. Um, you know, but yeah, a lot of people hustle their pen pals. And to answer your question, Eric, and I'm sorry about that. I didn't see the question. I'm getting a lot of different questions right now. Um, I used to go up to Portland, and used to pick up like 50 to 100 pounds of mushrooms at a time, And the person that I was getting them from was this lady that she owned or she divorced this guy, and the guy owed her money for child support, but they made an under the table deal, and he said that he would just give her pounds of mushrooms because he had this ranch out in Portland. And so I would go pick up mushrooms from Portland from this lady. Thank you, Wyatt. Appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. I love the donations. I appreciate you guys. Where can we send you stuff at? I will have a P.O. box soon, and I'll put the address up. So that was it. I just really, I picked up mushrooms in Portland. No, you don't have to pay for me to answer your question. Favorite meal outside of prison? Lamb chops. Questions I wrote down. I'm getting the best cold copping technique is to hit up a methadone clinic in a random city. I learned that years later, and that would have saved me a lot of heartache if I just had started employing that tactic from early on. Oh, thank you. Appreciate. How much do I make now? What do you mean? When I got out of my long bid, the first thing that I ate was Outback Steakhouse. I ate a steak. I never. Yeah, I picked up in Santa Maria before. I think I don't know. Yeah, I have. Just people I knew. I know a few people up there. Treatment experiences in Orange County. I've been to Cornerstone. I've been to South Orange County Detox. I've been to Recovery by the Beach or by the Sea or something. How much money do I make now? Um, I don't. It depends. I get money off royalties from my book, so it fluctuates. I got a few film deals. I don't know. It really depends. Some months are better than others. Have you? All right. Do you want to know how I got the pimping and pandering charge? Let's fuck whatever. Let's get to that charge. You know, you guys like my stories. I feel like telling stories is better than just doing the live thing. So let's get to the pimping and pandering thing. That's what we're gonna do. Why is he? Okay, we're going. Okay, so I married this girl, right? I married this fan. She sent me a letter for wasting talent. We had a horrible relationship. I'm gonna get to all that in different videos, but for the purpose of this video, just know that I go to Lompoc on a 3-month violation. Now, the way that I get this violation, I think it's important to preface the story with this. The way that I get this violation is it's my ex-wife's kid's birthday. And at the time, I'm strung out on alcohol. So I'm like skipping ahead. Like I was planning on doing my whole life story in chronological order, but figure we're on live, may as well give you guys a good story. So it's my wife's son's birthday, and I'm supposed to take him to Chuck E. Cheese. I'm strung out on alcohol at the time. And my alcohol had gotten to the point where I'm drinking about 2/5 of Jack Daniels a day. So I'm drinking enough Jack Daniels where I'm getting the shakes, and I have to drink. Like I'll wake up shaking, and my ex-wife is, she didn't really know she was marrying such a hardcore alcoholic drug addict, even though she was a fan of wasting talent. um, when she saw me in real life, I said, "How much do you think I'm actually like Damien?" And she's like, "I think you're worse than Damien." That's what she used to tell me. She's like, "You're way more hardcore of an addict than Damien." And when we were married, my alcoholism had just reached a very, 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 very scary place. I'm drinking 2/5 a day. So it got to the point where she left me. We were living in North Hollywood, and she said, "You know what? I'm cool. You're a degenerate alcoholic, and I'm shooting heroin too on top of being an alcoholic. So I'm drinking 2/5 of alcohol." By the way, I'm age 31 at the time. Or I'm age 30 at the time. So I'm 30. I'm 34 now. This is when I was 30. I'm drinking 2/5 of Jack Daniels a day, and I'm shooting probably about a gram or two of heroin a day. And she ends up leaving, and she says, "I can't deal with you anymore." So I begged for her to come back. I'm all alone in our apartment in North Hollywood. I'm just going through it. And I beg her to come back. And she says, listen, the only way that I'm going to come back is if you decide, if you'll commit to go to a rehab, if you'll go into a detox. I said, okay, if you come back, or if you come back, I'll definitely go to treatment tomorrow, as soon as you come back. And she said, but it's my son's birthday. Can we at least celebrate his birthday and then you go to treatment? I said, okay, absolutely. So she comes back, and that night I tell her I'm so happy that she comes back because she had left for like 3 or 4 days to go to Orange County. Now she comes back to North Hollywood. And I was so happy that she was back that I told her, I said, you know what? I'm going to quit drinking right now. Right now, I'm just going to quit. So I'm drinking 2 5 a day, every single day, and I just decided to stop cold turkey at this point. So I stopped cold turkey that night, and I'm still doing heroin, but I stopped the drinking. And I'm just trying to like prove to her that I want to change. The next day, I'm planning on going into detox. We found a detox called I forget what the name of it was. ARC in like West Hollywood or something. And they were going to take me for $1,000. So I stopped drinking that night. We get in bed together, and I go to sleep. I wake up in the middle of the floor. So like we're in bed, and I'm probably like 8 feet from where the bed is. What had happened is I started having seizures in my sleep, and I actually like flopped out of the bed. She woke up while I was having the seizures, and I made it like halfway across the room, and I like had seizures in the middle of the carpet. You know, I'm used to drinking 2 5 a day, so like you stop taking that intake just complete and sudden like that, you're going to have very adverse reactions like that. Delirium tremens, you're going to have seizures, you're going to hallucinate. So I was having seizures, and she was freaking out. She had never seen me the whole time. We'd been married at this point for 4 or 5 months. And she had just seen me drinking consistently. I'd wake up and I'm hitting the Jack Daniels out of the bottle first thing in the morning. So she had never seen me not drinking. So I'm flopping around on the floor. She's over me. She's like, "Oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm like, I have no idea what's happening. I just wake up to her being concerned. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And she's like feeling my forehead. I'm sweating profusely. And we had already been through this one other time when I went to go visit her in Denver. The first time I went to go meet her son, she wanted me to not drink that day. And I started, I'm masturbating right now. All right, I just came. So anyway, um, I'm like, I need alcohol. I'm going through alcohol withdrawal. So she goes, in California, you can't buy alcohol unless it's 6 in the morning. So like the laws here, you can't buy alcohol until from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. No alcohol sales. And this is in the middle of the night. It's like 3 in the morning. I just had a seizure. So we have to look through the house for stuff for me to drink, and we're looking. We have no alcohol in the house, but we have cologne that has alcohol in it. And the only reason I knew that you could drink cologne and get well from alcohol withdrawal like this, like if you're dope sick off alcohol and you can drink cologne, the only reason I know this and the real irony behind all this is that I had heard that in an AA meeting from like some guy that like, I reached rock bottom and I drank my Tommy Hilfiger. So I heard somebody say that, so I knew that you could do that. I didn't know if it was the right cologne. I didn't know if this stuff was going to make me go blind. But I just opened, what kind of cologne was it? It was like, I think it was Burberry Sport or something. And I just take the thing, I take the little thing off and I start drinking the cologne. It makes me feel better. It's disgusting. It burns. It feels like fire is literally coursing down my throat, but it gets me well. Hold on, I'm going to masturbate again. All right. I came. All right. Back to the story. So, the next morning, it's her son's birthday. I'm going to rehab, right? And she's, I'm like, hey, look, I'm going to go to rehab at the end of the day, but I want to go get your son a skateboard. I had a lot of friends that are pro skateboarders and stuff. I'm going to go meet up with my friend that has he's going to give me a skateboard. Really what I wanted to do was go score. Now, she had already gone to the liquor store and got me a pint of Jack Daniels at like 9:30 in the morning. Whatever time the liquor store opened, she went and got me a pint. So she gets me a pint of Jack Daniels, and she brings it back to me, and she says, "Okay, get well off this." So I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I start drinking. I drink maybe a third of this Jack Daniels. I'm not doing it to get buzzed. I'm just doing it to. I know. I didn't take my Suboxone today. Now I'm a premature ejaculator. And so I drink about a third of this pint. I get in the car to go score heroin. My dealer lives in Winnetka. I'm in North Hollywood. It's like a 45-minute drive. Okay. So anyway, I'm driving up there, and like 45 minutes, I'm dope sick the whole time. I was kicking alcohol the night before. I drank cologne. She gave me the third of Jack Daniels, the pint. I'm driving all the way. I get like 45 minutes to Winnetka. I hated this fucking drug dealer bitch too that I would score off of. She was the worst drug dealer ever, like ever. She's the kind of dealer that would be like, "Hey, meet me at the pharmacy in the parking lot." I'm like, "Okay, cool." I know you guys know these kind of people. And so I go there, and then 2-3 hours would go by. They turn their phone off. You call them, you're like, "Hey, where are you?" And you like hear music blasting in the background. They're like at some bar. They're like, "Oh yeah, I'm just at my mom's or something." And you know they're full of shit. This was that kind of person. So I drive all the way to Winnetka, and she calls me. She's like, "I have to go visit my boyfriend at Wayside, the jail in Valencia, the LA County jail, like the extended LA County jail." After I'd already drove 45 minutes to go score while I'm dope sick, I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me right now?" So I'm driving back, and I'm just infuriated. I'm livid right now. I'm swerving in and out of lanes on the 101, and my ex-wife's blowing me up. She's like, "Where are you? Where are you? Where are you?" And so I'm texting her with one hand. Now I'm driving an X5 BMW at the time, so like a black SUV BMW. Driving it, and I'm texting with one hand, and I'm on the 101 freeway going southbound. And I'm texting. All of a sudden, I look up, and the traffic in front of me stops. I'm probably going like 60 miles per hour. And I hit his car, right? I hit the car in front of me. So I hit the car. Bam! As soon as I hit that car hits another car. So it like accordions the car in the middle, right? And I'm like, fuck, I'm not wearing a t-shirt, or yeah, like I'm shirtless. So I have no shirt on. I have a backwards hat on. I'm wearing flip-flops. I'm covered in prison tattoos. My legs are I'm all blasted, right? I look like a straight up Peckerwood. Like I look like a criminal. And the guy whose car we totaled in the middle car is like some Middle Eastern guy, and he's just like, "Oh no," he's like all tripping out. And then it's like some essay with his kids in the front car, and he's all pissed off. He gets out of the car. He's like, "What's up, bro?" And I'm like, "Look," I said, "somebody rear-ended me, and when I got rear-ended, I swerved to get out of the way, and I hit the Middle Eastern dude's car." And the Southside, the essay dude looks at me. He knows I'm full of shit, right? And he's like, "Okay." Gets out of his car, and he looks at the back of my car, and there's no damage. So he knows for sure that I'm full of shit. He's like, "Why you lying, fool?" And like his like overweight, the cliche overweight wife comes out. He's like, "Yeah, puppy, don't fight." And I'm just like, oh my god. Like, this is not the situation I want to be in. I'm dope sick. I just want to get back to, now I'm like, I couldn't score at Winnetka. I'm trying to go to like Skid Row and score because I'm sick. That's all I'm thinking about. But this guy's making he's like pushing the issue. So she's like, "Puppy, just leave him alone." I'm like, "Look, I'm just gonna sit in my car. We'll exchange insurance. We'll figure it out later. I'm sorry." He's like, "Okay, cool." So I go sit in my car. I have syringes. I have rigs in my pocket. So I have heroin, I have hypodermic needles in my pocket. I have like spoons that are like bent with like carbon. Like I'm so guilty if a cop comes. I have like a whole like junkie kit with me. I'm not wearing a shirt. I'm tracked up, and I'm dope sick. So I already look suspicious to begin with because I'm all sweaty. And so CHP guy comes, which is a California Highway Patrol. I don't know what it's called. I know there's a lot of people from different states. California Highway Patrol guy comes, and he starts interviewing the guy in the front car. And then he interviews the Middle Eastern guy in the middle car. And then he comes and, so he interviews the SA first. He drives away. The Middle Eastern guy's car's totaled, so he's getting him an Uber. They're figuring out an Uber for him to go. So I'm the last person to be interviewed. The SA and Puppy, those people left with their kids. Middle Eastern guy whose car's totaled, I felt bad for him. The front of his car is accordioned and the back it's just his car's screwed, right? So the highway patrol officer comes up to me and he's like, hey, what happened, man? And I'm like, so I try to give him the same bullshit story that I give the essay. I'm like, well, I got rear-ended and then I swerved, and then the cop, before I can even finish, he's like, how much have you had to drink today, sir? I was like, drink? I was like, no, sir. I haven't drinking anything. And he's like, okay, would you do a field sobriety test for me? I said, absolutely. I'm not inebriated right now. Let's go. So he gives me he starts giving me the, field sobriety test. He has me walking in the line or whatever you have to do. I'm touching my nose, and he's making me do all this stuff standing on one leg. And then he says, do you think I could breathalyze you? And I say, no. And I'm trying not to read all this so I get too distracted. Stop. So, I refused the breathalyzer, right? And he goes, well, why are you refusing the breathalyzer? He's like, that if you're refusing the breathalyzer, I can take you to jail just based on you refusing it. And I'm like, well, I did drink last night, and I don't know if there's still alcohol in my system or not. I want to make sure if I am doing a breathalyzer that I'm not going to get in trouble for drinking last night. And he's like, come on, it sounds just completely ridiculous. I drank a third of a pint. I don't know if I'm within the legal parameters at this point. Eventually, I decide to just blow into the breathalyzer. So I blow into the breathalyzer, and you have to blow until it clicks. So I'm like, and it's like click, and I'm like, what did I blow? And he goes, listen, I can't tell you that until you do it for a second time. You got to do it twice. In California, it's a .07. 0.08. 0.08 is what the legal limit is here. And so now another cop car pulls up with two cops. And you guys know as well as I do, when multiple cops show up, you're going to jail. I already knew that. As soon as I saw the other cop car, I knew I was going to jail. So I'm like, okay, I'll breathe again. I'll do the breathalyzer again. So I blow into the breathalyzer again, and we're all kind of waiting for the and now I'm talking to the other cop, because the cop that's originally there's a dick. The other two cops that come, they're like, okay. I'm like, what'd I blow? And he goes, a .05. 0.06, actually. 0.06. And I'm like, 0.06? Cool. It's not a DUI. I'm good to go, right? It's like, thank God, guys. I was really worried for a second, because I'm supposed to take my stepkid to Chuck E. Cheese today, and then, I got pulled over, and I thought I might go to jail, and when you get out of jail, he says it like that, he's emphatic at the end. He's like, yeah, you'll be okay when you get out of jail. And I'm like, jail for what? I just blew a .06. Now remember, I have the needles in my pocket, I have the burnt spoon, all that stuff. And they said, you're getting a driving DWI, driving while under the influence. And I'm just like, dude, I just blew a .06. What are you talking about? Put your hands behind your back. I'm like, oh my God. So I put my hands behind my back. You got anything in your pockets? My pokas. I said, I have a few syringes. And they take them out. I never got charged with those syringes either. I don't know. They just took them from me. But so they take me to jail. And that's a whole story in itself. But basically, they let me go a few hours later. Call my wife at the time, tell her I'm leaving. Yes, I am all sweaty. It's hot as fuck in this room. I want to turn the air conditioner on. I don't usually. That's why I usually record outside. Our air conditioner's busted right now. Um, so I get out of jail and I call. I'm on federal probation at the time. So I call my federal PO and I say, hey, I'm just letting you know that, and remember this part, this is a very important part. I call my federal PO and I say, hey, I'm just letting you know that I got in an accident, I got charged with a DUI, but I'm okay. It wasn't a real, I am sweating, huh? It's hot in here. Um, it like wasn't a real DUI, so don't worry, I'm gonna beat it. He's like, oh, okay, cool. Okay, cool. So I end up going to court on this DUI, and the DA throws it out. DA rejects. So I'm like, I call my PO. I'm like, hey, good news. Just like I told you, they threw it out. Now my PO says, well, I don't care if you beat it on the state level. I'm still going to violate you on the because you're on federal probation just for getting arrested. I'm like, what? So he recommends to the judge that I do a year in prison for that non-conviction DUI because I got in. I know. I don't know how to do it. I'm never in this room. Wait. Oh, you see? I did it. Let me turn this shit on. Okay. Okay, here comes the fan. Thank you. It's hot. Okay. Alright. So, anyway, so I end up, eventually I go to prison for 3 months for the DUI. He recommends a year. My judge is pretty cool. He's like, a year for a non-conviction DUI? He's like, I'll send him away for 3 months because of the car accident, but a year is kind of hardcore. When you do a federal violation, if it's anything under a year, they give you what you're sentenced to. It's like truth in sentencing. So if you get 3 months, you serve 3 months. The only time you get a drop in the time is if it's over a year. So that's why they'll give you like a year and a day or whatever. So I go do 3 months in Lompoc. That's when I meet Big Meech. And my wife leaves me. She sends me like a Dear John. I get a dirty drug test like 3 or 4 weeks into the sentence. So I spend like that entire 3 months pretty much in the hole. My wife leaves me because, she's just like, I don't want to be with you anymore. We had an apartment in North Hollywood. I lose that. That car that I was driving that I got in a car accident in, it didn't total in the accident, but it bent the fan because it was an X5 Beamer and it like wouldn't cool the radiator. Like the fan wasn't cooling the radiator anymore. So I'm like just driving one day and it just starts smoking and the car gets totaled. So I blow all that like a night gambling with a couple of my friends. We go to Vegas for the night. I blow like all this insurance money. So anyway, the point is I get out of prison. I don't have a car. This is 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. 2017. It's in 2017. So I get out of prison. I lose my apartment in North Hollywood. I lose my car, and I don't have a chick anymore. And I lose my stepkid, and I lose everything. So my parents let me move back in with them. Now I'm 30 or 31 years old at the time now. I haven't lived with my parents for years, right? And so I move in with them and I'm completely resourceless. And so I start working odd jobs. I'm getting royalties for my books, but like my book's dead at the time. Right now my book's doing really good and I appreciate every single one of you, but at this point it's like stagnant and I really want to change my ways. Like I'm sick of losing everything materially. I don't want to be living with my parents at that age. So I start going to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. Like really trying to change. I'm like really putting an effort to change. And I'm going to AA meetings and I meet this girl. She's like 22 years old, 23 years old. And we start kind of hanging out a little bit, right? Nothing sexual. It's like a platonic relationship. I'm already like sleeping with another chick at the time and like I'm not really interested in this girl. But she's telling me she's newly sober and she needs some like a sober person to hang out with. So I'm like, okay. So I go with her to the beach the next day. We're laying out on towels and we start talking and we're just talking about AA recovery stuff. And she goes, hey, I'm a hooker. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? She's like, yeah, I'm a hooker. What do you think of that? I'm like, yeah, I don't have any judgment. And that's cool. It's cool. And she says, yeah, but I'm having some really bad experiences turning tricks. Um, I keep meeting up with dudes on back pages, and I don't date hookers from AA, you weirdo, you illiterate person. I met a girl at an AA meeting that was a hooker. Who is this hydroponic? Who is this guy? I am Hydro. Yes, I'm still sending free paperback copies to prisons. If you guys have somebody in prison that you want me to send the book to, I send it at no charge. Or send me it in the email. But anyway, okay, so she's telling me that she's having bad experiences working as an escort. And that she keeps meeting up with dudes on back pages and they keep raping her, they keep burning her, she's putting herself in bad situations. And she's like, do you think you can introduce me to like a sugar daddy type dude? I'm like, I don't know people like that. I don't know many people that pay for sex. I mean, I'm still pretty young, you know? It's like stuff that like old men that like play golf do, I think. I mean, it's not stuff that like my friends, like I don't really have friends that get hookers. We want to hook up with girls, we like go on Tinder and stuff like that. It's like our generation, right? And so she's like, I really need, and I'm like, okay, look, I got an idea. Why don't you and I start making porn on the webcam? There's a program, or there's a website called Chatterbait, and we can fuck, and we can film it, and people will tell us like weird fetish stuff in the chat room, just like this, except we're like doing like actual sexual stuff. Like, hey, so and so, put your finger up Ryan's butt. A girl would do that to me. And then I'm like, well, I won't do that for $40. And then like it goes ding 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 ding, and you get $40. It's like a game, right? Chatterbait. So she's like, that sounds cool. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. Now, I'd never had sex with this girl. We don't have a relationship like that, but she's like down for the cause, and I just got out of prison. I need money too, so I'm like down. I'm like, whatever. Well, let's start doing webcam porn. So remember, I don't have a place to live, and she's living in a sober living. She's like turning tricks out of a sober living place, and like to pay her sober living rent. And she like really made. She's like, look, I have a felony, and like the only thing I can do is suck dick for money. I'm like, okay, all right. Well, let's just do the webcam thing. It's more benign. It's more passive. Let's do this. So I show up with this girl to, one of my best friend's houses. This guy Jeff. He's a reoccurring, character in my stories. I show up to Jeff's house with this girl, and I'm like, hey man, can I give you? I'll give you $100 if I can go in your room upstairs and fuck this girl and film it. And he's like, what? He's like, for $100, sure, man. He's like, stop bringing hood rats over to my house. I'm like, man, it's not like, let us just film it. I'll give you $100. He's like, okay, give me the $100. I'm like, I don't have it yet. I have to post the porno online before I can actually pay you. And he's like, dude, you're such a like. He is not. He is. He's like, not surprised by anything at this point with me. It's just like I'm bringing this hood rat to his house and I'm trying to make porn up there. Thank you, Bukhara. How could I get? I charge $20 for a signed copy. Wasting talent unless I'm sending it to someone in prison, and then I don't charge anything. I do that for free. And you can PayPal me. My PayPal's up there, and then I'll just give me the mailing address. I end up fucking this girl. Film it. I'll get to it in a minute. I don't want to give anything away in the story, but we can't figure out how to get it up to Chatterbait. We're having like issues uploading it, right? So we're trying to upload it and it's not going up, and we kind of just like forget about it. Like we had sex, we filmed it, we tried to upload it to this website. It didn't work. And um, so I get a job like moving furniture. Like a few days goes by, and she comes back and she tries to do it again. So we have sex again, we film it again, and no, it is live streams, but to entice people to get a following, you need to have a video so that you have like a profile. We were trying to put a video of ourselves fucking on Chatterbait to like entice people to follow us so that we could actually make money. So, so that's what the issue we were having. We had to make this video so that we could get a following so that we could actually make this. So, we have sex again, we film it, and we're leaving, and like these girls from her sober living are coming to like pick her up. So they see us, I'm walking out, I like don't have a shirt on, and they're like, hey, what's up? These like 5 girls are like in their mid-20s, and they're like, hey, what'd you just do? And this girl's like, oh, we just had sex on Chatterbait, and like we're gonna make all this money. So these girls are like, I want to do it too. Like, so now I have like 6 girls that are down for like this porn enterprise that I'm gonna launch. And I'm just like, damn, this is pretty cool. Like, I have 6 girls that are down to do porn, and I heard there's money in it. I've never successfully done it, but it was like I just got out of prison. I didn't really care. Like, I was so, I was so down and out at the time. I just was like, I was exploring whatever options I could to try to get back on my feet. And so we decided to kind of like make like a company. Like, I was going to get a fictitious business license. I was going to get who is this guy saying I'm a police informant? What a loser. Oh man, that's funny. You can look up anybody online to see if they are pacer.gov. I've told them. How do you block them? How do you block that guy? I don't know. You guys block that guy. I don't know how to do that. Click his name. Okay. I don't know where he is. Doesn't matter. He'll probably show up now when I start getting back into the, So anyway, listen. Just to get to this story, right? This is how I got the pimping case. So, these girls are like, yeah, let's start making porn. I'm like, all right, cool. But I was the only guy. So I'm like one guy and like 6 girls. And we couldn't just do like orgy scenes all the time. And it can't just be girl on girl. Like, we needed variety. We needed like, at least like a few guys so that we could like pair up with the different, like we could make couples out of the different girls and put them with different guys. So like I tried to start recruiting my friends, and I thought that would be really easy to do. I'm like, hey, I got all these like good looking girls and they're like mid-20s. Let's start making porn and start making money just having sex. Like, it seemed like a win-win, totally innocent thing. And like, none of my friends want to do it. They're like, you're crazy. You would fuck someone on camera permanently where like that could come back to haunt you. I'm like, dude, I've done so much scandalous, scummy shit in my life. I don't think anything can come back to haunt me at this point. I really don't care anymore. Like, it's like, it's not like I'm embarrassed about it. So, anyway, I couldn't find any guys, but I do find this one kid. And he's like a youngster. He's maybe like 23, 24. I've known him for a while. Met him at a rehab in Santa Barbara. And he says that he's down to do it. I said, cool. So, and he has an apartment too. So he has an apartment where we can actually film this stuff. So it's like, everything's starting to work out. Hey, how come donations come and then they like don't go in to the thing? What does that happen? I'm so naive with this stuff. I don't know. So anyway, I meet up with this kid and we're gonna make this porn. And he goes, hey man, I need heroin. If I don't have yes, I'm monetized. But like some monies come up and then it doesn't go. I don't know. It's weird. So anyway, but this guy says that he needs heroin, and if he doesn't have heroin, that he's a premature ejaculator. So he's like, I need you to score heroin for me. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm sober at the time. I'm going to AA meetings. But I want to get this porn company cracking. So I'm like, okay, dude, this one time I will definitely just call my guy and I'll get you something. So I call this guy. Known this guy for a long time. His name is Charlie Becchio. I will use his real name. This motherfucker, dude. Known him for years. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I've known this guy for years, and I call him. I meet up with him. I think I was getting a 3-pack of heroin, so 3 grams. And I tell him about what I'm doing. I'm saying, hey, man, I'm doing this webcam porn, and I'm trying to recruit more guys, and I'm going to make this whole company. I got all these sober living girls that are in their mid-20s that want to do it. Do you want to get involved with this? And he said, no. There's no way I'm doing that. He's like, come on, man. Why would you want to put yourself out there like that? And I don't care. But he says that he drives Uber on the side, and he said, are any of these girls working as escorts? And I said, why? Thank you, Reed. And he says, are any of these girls working as escorts? I say, as a matter of fact, the main one is, and she's kind of looking for a sugar daddy situation. Why? What's up? He's like, I drive Uber on the side. It's one of his hustles. He's like, I got this guy. He's one of my regular clients when I drive Uber. And he's always asking for a girl. He's in an unhappy marriage, and he just wants to get hooked up with a younger girl, consistent sex, not a prostitution thing, a sugar daddy thing. He pays her rent, he pays for everything, and she basically is his girlfriend. And that's what it is. And I say, is the guy cool? He goes, yeah, he's cool. I sell him coke all the time. He's, he parties. He's an old guy. He's just in an unhappy marriage. So I'm like, I don't know, man. The whole point of trying to get this girl to do the webcam porn was try to get her out of prostitution, because she was getting raped, beat up, all this stuff, and I honestly didn't think she should be doing that. We were platonic friends before all this. So he's like, just run it by her, see what's up. I'm like, okay. So I don't even bring that up to her again, right? I do not bring it up to her. I go back to working for this moving company. We never get the porn stuff going. We're trying to. It's just not working out. We're having trouble uploading the sample videos, and we need the sample videos because none of us have an established following at this point. And the girl calls me, and she goes, hey, I'm going to get kicked out of my sober living. I need money now. I'm like, I don't have any, man. I'm living with my parents. I don't have any money. And she says, do you know anybody that you can help me, like a John? I'm like, a matter of fact, this dude that I was buying heroin off of, this guy Charlie Becchio, he was asking me if I knew any girls that were working. And she's like, well, yeah, what's up? I said, well, he drives Uber, and one of his clients, one of his regulars, thank you, John, one of his regulars is always asking for a girl. I told her the situation. She's like, yes, I absolutely want to do it. Make it happen. She was super into it. I'm like, okay, all right. So I call Charlie and I go, hey, you still got that guy, your regular Uber client that wants to have a consistent thing with a girl, a sugar daddy situation? And he's like, yeah, for sure. And I say, okay, give the dude my number and I'll set it up. He's like, okay, cool. So he gives the guy my number. The guy calls. The guy's name is Ryan. Ryan calls me. He's like, hey, is this Ryan? I go, yeah. He's like, hi, my name's Ryan too. How you doing? And I'm like, yeah, cool. He sounds like a total dork. He's like, so, Charles told me that you might have some pussy for me. And I'm like, yes. I said, I wouldn't call it that. I have a girl that's looking for a consistent, safe relationship. I said, I'm not a pimp. It's not what my thing is. I say, I make webcam porn with this chick and with some of her friends. She's been working since way before I knew her. And she's down to have a consistent thing. He's like, well, do you think you can send me a picture of her pussy? And I'm like, why are you talking like that? Yeah, I really didn't say that. I'm just saying that. But he was really talking like weird like that. He's like, wow, just send me a picture of her pussy. So I have to text this girl, and I'm like, you were molested as a kid? That's what someone just said. that's cold, man. Some guy just commented, you were molested as a kid. I know it. I swear, this is probably the guy Ryan, this creep. All right, show me a picture of her pussy. I will make you a pussy. Fucking weirdo. Who says that? Molestation humor? You were molested as a kid. So I have to call this girl. I'm like, hey, I need a pussy shot. So she ends up like taking a picture of herself. She sends it to this dude. He calls me back. He's like, wow, man, she's really cute. And I'm like, yeah, she's good looking. He's like, yeah, you think we can meet on Friday? And he sounded like such a weirdo that this seemed believable. So he's like, let's meet on Friday and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, cool. So we set it up for Friday. Now that Friday, I'm going to, like, my elementary school is having like a time capsule thing that night, where when I was in like 5th grade, we all like put this stuff in. This was like in the 90s, and it was like at a later date we're gonna undig the time capsule and we're gonna get all this stuff out, right? So I go to this thing. It's like a nice reception. They're drinking cocktails and stuff, but I'm sober still. Even though I hooked my friend up with heroin, I'm still sober. She's supposed to meet up with Ryan, the pussy, that guy, on Friday. Okay? And so she calls me and she goes, hey, I'm supposed to meet up this guy at noon on Friday at this hotel. I don't feel comfortable. Can you come? So I'm at this reception thing and I leave. I don't have a car. I have to have my dad drive me, drops me off like 3 blocks from this motel, and I pick her up. I'm in dress clothes, but I like take my shirt off and I'm wearing like a wife beater. So I have like nice dress shoes on, black socks. I look like a pimp now. I'm in a wife beater. It looked horrible. And she's like, I just want you to come with me and make sure that this dude, that everything's kosher. I said, cool. So we go to this motel. It's like noon. And I remember something was off. There was like an ominous vibe here. And like there weren't any cars in the parking lot on a Friday at like noon. There should be cars. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate your donations, guys. And so she's wearing stilettos. It's like super slutty outfit, like this little short skirt, stilettos. And my sole purpose is I'm just supposed to go up with her to the motel room, knock on the door, and be like, hey, I'm a guy. If you do anything to her, I'll beat you up. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Or I'll push it. And that's all I thought that it was going to be. We go and we knock on the door, and it's 6 sheriffs, man. There's shotgun sticking out the door. Get on the ground! And she looks at me, and she's like, oh my God, what the hell? And I'm like, oh my God. I thought for sure she set me up. So I get on the ground. They cuff me, and they end up bringing me back to the police station. And they asked me what I was doing, like what my involvement was. And I said, I don't know. I just went to this motel with this girl because she said she was meeting someone sketchy here that like owed her money, and she just wanted to make sure that this dude wasn't going to hurt her or anything. Like, nothing weird. And so this guy's like basically telling me that she told them that I was a pimp, right? And that she had told the cop that I had just gotten out of prison and that she was prostituting to help me out because I was out of money. And so these guys were like pretty much wanting me to flip for them. They're like, well, you know a lot of drug people. Who do you know that has weight of heroin and weight of meth and this and that? I was like, dude, I know so many people. I know. And I just start making up like names. I was saying names from the On the Road by Jack Kerouac. I was like, yeah, there's this dude named Sal Paradise. I got to get him. And the reason that I'm giving him fake information is because I'm on federal probation, and I'm worried that if they don't let me go, my whole theory was that I could make them think that I would cooperate and work for them, that they could flip me. They'd let me go. And then my PO wouldn't be notified that I got arrested. I was getting off federal probation in 6 months, so I could just keep giving them the runaround. Yeah, I'm going to give you guys a huge bust next month. I didn't know how this shit worked. And so they pretty much said, they're like, look, if you can get a drug dealer on the phone right now, then we won't take you to jail. And I was just like, oh God. So, and I couldn't do that. So they end up charging me with pimping and pandering, and they take me to Santa Barbara County Jail. And so, sorry. Can you guys hear me? Say something that you can hear me. Say yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Sorry. My friend just called right now. And I have to use the phone. So, okay, I see all the yeses. So, they charged me with pimping and pandering. I had to call my dad, and I had to get bailed out. There's nothing, when you get arrested by the state, they don't automatically notify the feds. The only way the feds find out is if you're in jail or if you have a federal warrant. Sometimes it comes up. But I learned that from the non-conviction DUI. I learned my lesson and not to tell them. So I was trying to buy time, trying to make myself look like I'd cooperate with these people. They knew that I was just playing them. So they arrested me, and I end up going to jail. My dad had to bail me out. It was like another $10,000. Thank you very much, Esther. New pocket butthole. Dude, pocket buttholes are like $14. And yes, I'm here. Yes, I will have to make one of you guys a moderator. Whatever. Yes, be a moderator for me. I got you. And so my dad bails me out for like 10 grand. I think he had to pay $2,500 though to get me out. So I think the bail was $25,000 for pimping and pandering. I get out, and my whole plan is not to tell my PO. I'm not going to tell my PO now, right? And because I know that as soon as I tell my PO, he's going to violate me. I just picked up a new felony. I'm getting off probation in like 3 or 4 months. So if I can just delay it, if I can just make it, if I can just prolong it for a little bit longer, I can not go to jail or whatever, right? So the next day, and I feel horrible. I call an attorney. I'm like, what am I looking at? He's like, you're looking at 3 years mandatory minimum in California state prison. Plus the feds are going to violate you. You might end up serving 5 or 6 years of actual time because you're on federal probation. And so I'm really tripping. That night, I have to go to court-ordered federal therapy, right? What are these little, like, when people send money, do I have to click on it? Or, like, I do not understand how this stuff, I don't understand. Someone just sent money, I didn't see the name. Thank you so much. Thank you for the donation. So, yeah. So anyway, I do have herpes. So what? So what? I have herpes. So what? Thank you. Thank you. Wow, Hydro gives me money at the end after all the shit talking. That is what I'm talking about. So, I go to this court-ordered therapy. This is the end of the story. I go to court-ordered therapy that night. I've never met this therapist before. Now, remember, I'm trying to actually change, okay? I'm not, like, I'm going to therapy with the hopes that I can actually change my ways. So I see this therapist, and she can tell that something's up. She can tell that something is going on with me, right? She's like, what's up? And I'm like, I can't tell you. And she's like, why can't you tell me? I say, because anything I tell you is going to be relayed to my probation officer. I can't have an authentic therapeutic experience with you And she's like, listen, you can tell me anything that's on your mind if it's going to help you. I'm bound by confidentiality laws. I cannot report anything to your PO. Thank you for that $10. Thank you very much. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Eva, thank you. I can't tell the PO anything unless you're a threat to yourself or you're a threat to somebody else. And I'm like, okay, I'll tell you the truth. So I tell her everything. I tell her how I got arrested for pimping and pandering, and how I'm petrified that I'm going to go back to prison, and that my parents are getting older. They're not in the best health. And she's like, okay, it's okay. It's okay. She's like being all soothing, and I'm like, okay, I feel better. I feel like I got a load off a little bit. Not, you know. And so I leave, and I feel a little better. And she calls me an hour later, and she goes, yeah, Mr. Leone, this is Trisha, the therapist, and I'm actually just an intern, and I spoke with my boss, and it's actually against policy for us not to tell your PO that you caught a new case. So you can either tell him by noon tomorrow, or we're going to tell him. And I'm just like, are you serious? You tricked me, dude. You tricked me. You told me that I could tell you anything and that you weren't going to tell him. That is not cool. What the fuck? And actually, for the documentary, we recorded. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we actually recorded this. So, like, we have in the documentary, we have her admitting that she tricked me into disclosing this information. And I was like crying. This is like pretty intense footage. I'm like crying. I'm like, how could you trick me like that, dude? How could you trick me? Do you know what you're doing? Forever now, my entire therapeutic experience is fucked up because I'll never be able to trust you again. Never be able to trust any therapist again, for that matter. And that's all going to be in the documentary. We have that on. We have so much good footage on there. I'm really excited about that. So that's how I caught the pimping and pandering case. Eventually, I ended up going, and all said and done, I did 16 months on it. I did 8 months Fed violation. They ran it concurrent. I did 3 years with half in the state. Right now, they do 33%. Once you hit the main lines, they took 2 months off my sentence. So I did. You normally do 18 months. I did 16 months. I got out in March. Okay, so okay, so now that's that story, and I know you guys want a story. It's much harder for me to tell stories when you're. I've never been to China. You're welcome. Documentary's coming out May of next year. I haven't talked to Chenny at all. I've never met Wes Watson. I've talked to him before, though. Watershed 06, what's up? So, anyhow, guys, let me answer the last questions I have, and then I need to go. Because it's been a long time. And happy birthday, Callie-Ann. Happy birthday. I've been to Lake Tahoe. I'm not on federal paper. I do, and I have to UA, but I'm allowed to smoke weed. I'm allowed to do Suboxone, so I'm good. The dealer set me up, Charlie Becchio from Santa Barbara. If any of you know him, he's a piece of shit. I have paperwork on him. I don't. Okay, Jenny's family. Remember, if you guys remember from when I met her, my parents. Thank you, Wyatt. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate the donations. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Love you too. I really do. I used to party in Pismo. Thank you. I appreciate the good vibes and energy. Written questions. Do I smoke crack and do whippets at the same time? Who doesn't? No. I don't know. Probably. Thank you. I appreciate that, Bobby. There's going to be a bunch more stories. Let me get to the last of the questions, just because I promised that I would. Somebody asked me if have I ever done a dog? Of course I've done a dog. I'm a drug addict. Oh, thank you guys. Thank you, Jester. Thank you, me. Thank you, G-Love. Thank you guys so much, man. No, I didn't do bedtime in Sheridan. That's in Oregon. I've never done that. I would consider doing a documentary on the opioid crisis. Thank you. How deep are the Muslims in there? Muslims are deep in federal prison, and it's like their own gang. I come to Baltimore pretty often. Ever move back to SB? I'll never move back to SB. I'm LA for life now. What was the website to check for snitches? Pacer.gov. Pacer.gov. And if you, I'm going to do a whole video on how to run someone's paperwork so that you can know how to run people's paperwork and know how to figure out if somebody's cooperating on their case. I think that's important stuff to know. Start putting people out there, because it's a horrible, horrible thing to do to another person. Let's see. Did I ever get hooked on Oxycontin? A little bit. When I was at Victorville in 2010, we used to get the OC80s, the green ones, from people. Herpes? I have herpes. So what? Move to Worcester. What was the title of the book you recommend if you're going to the feds? Busted by the Feds. Were you at the same faculty with the shoe bomber? I was not. Do I want to change? I am changed. I have a great life now. I don't know why. Yay! You have herpes too. Who doesn't have herpes? If you don't have hep C, you're a cop. If you don't have herpes, you're doing something wrong. I'm just fucking with you guys. I think I answered all the questions. Someone asked me if I had done time with their dad named Drop Dead Fred in... Yeah, hep C. I've had hep C forever. You ever take 5 grams of mushrooms? I have. Get the hep treated. I'm trying to. They kept denying me in prison this last time. Someone said, do you think most addictions are accidental or on purpose? And it was kind of worded a little strangely, but I understand what you're asking. I think that the latest opioid crisis and the Oxycontin thing with Purdue and Big Pharma and everything, I think that it was definitely a manufactured crisis. I think that they intentionally got people strung out. They overprescribed. And I don't think it's coincidental that we were invaded Afghanistan, one of the leading sources of poppies. Just like during the Vietnam War, we were in the Golden Triangle. There was a heroin epidemic back then. And then now in the Afghanistan War, same thing happened. And then Big Pharma jumped in to kind of become the cushion after the heroin crisis. It transitioned into actual pharmaceutical drugs, and then they got people from pharmaceutical drugs in the mid-90s onto heroin now. So it like switched back to heroin, and I think that was orchestrated exactly the way that they wanted to do it. So I think I became a drug addict accidentally. I think a lot of you probably became a drug addict accidentally, but I do think that there's corporate entities that try to manufacture the opioid crisis to profiteer off it. Longest I've stayed up, 12 days, maybe. I mean, when I'm kicking methadone, like I said, I get fragmentary sleep, but it's not, who knows? I mean, like, when I used to smoke crack, I used to stay up for like 10 days at a time. And I think smoking crack is the worst kind of staying up. I think that's the worst kind of stimulation to sustain. I think it's worse than meth. The psychosis from crack is so much more severe than the psychosis from meth. But most people can't afford to stay up on crack. Crack's the most expensive drug in the world. Yeah. A real job to fill my time? What do you mean? I have a real job. This is my job. I work all day on creative stuff. I'm super busy. I'm in meetings all the time. I'm working on scripts, different projects, post-production for the documentary. That's a job. I'm a full-time dad. That's another job. Just because I don't go to like an office every day doesn't mean that I don't work full-time. I probably work more than most people do. I'm always working. Yeah. Baby tiger. Guys, I appreciate you so. I've never worked in fast food. The only real work I've ever done, like outside of, like I've done some professional moving. I've done a lot of telemarketing. I've done a lot of sales work, like selling solar systems, like, face-to-face sales, stuff like that. I think Suboxone means I'm clean. I mean, I wish I could get my fiance down here right now to talk to you guys, and she'd be like, the difference between me, like, on Suboxone and on heroin is like night and day, and, right now it's working for me. I should chill on the racist impressions in your stories? Why? Why do you say that? You guys think that I'm racist? I don't know. I thank you. So, yep, we that's a town hall decision. I'm not gonna start doing that. And if I'm offending you, I'm not racist at all. Like, I don't. People are so weird, man. I hate racist people. I like detest that. How's Boston George doing? He's doing horrible. He has emphysema right now, and he's in his 70s, and he lives every day just to drink bottles of scotch. I'm not friends with him. I'm friends with, yeah, I hate racist people. Uh, Boston George isn't doing good. I don't really, I mean, I'm friends with George's daughter, and I'm friends with Mirtha, his ex-wife. Like, those are my friends. I don't talk to George. My manager right now, Jose, was George's ex-manager, and now he manages me. Yeah. I suggest block. Yeah, I know. I block people every day. Every day, people are like, "He's hustling. He's running a scam." It's like, dude, I'm not running a scam. If people enjoy my content, I have to be able to provide for myself while I'm doing this, And people donate, and I'm super flattered by that. It's cool, but I'm not. I'm definitely not scamming anybody. Thank you. Love you too. I know. I know, guys. A little bit in North County. Yeah, I've been there. Guys, I really, really have to go. I will post, I will post more stories tomorrow. I get so distracted on the live feeds. I don't know if I'm doing, if I'm doing good on the live feed, because I have such bad ADD. I like just get so distracted. But I'll definitely do what are we on, 7 of the Fed story? I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do the juvenile delinquency. I have no connections to the cartel. No. Yeah, good night, everybody with herpes. Stay good. I love you guys. $0 donation. Thank you, Sam, for your $0 donation. That's great. Good night, everybody. Let's do this again on Sunday. I had a really, really fun time. And I will see you guys soon. Good night.